Safety manual, one of the important document in functional safety domain. This is the document that is prepared by the OEM or the manufacturer and used by system integrator or end user for construction, commissioning, and operation and maintenance of that particular piece of equipment. How safety manual is prepared, how it is used, what are the basic components of the safety manual. All these things are discussed here, and at the end we'll use a practical example of Rosemount 3051S transmitter to discuss the same thing but with a practical example. So let's get started. So as I already have told, safety manual is a document that is mandated by IEC 61508. If your equipment needs to be certified by IEC 61508, it needs to have a manual, and that manual is called safety manual. Safety manual may be an independent document or it may be a part of other documents. It typically includes usage requirements, restrictions, environmental limits, operational settings, failure rate data, useful live data, common cause beta estimate, inspection and test procedure. So we will discuss all this point in bit detail at the later stage, but these are the terms that are basically used in the functional safety domain, and if you are unaware of these terms, there are a couple of videos in this course where you can find the definition of these items. So what the standard says. So safety manual is a key requirement as per IC 61508, and there is a part 2 and part 3 in this manual which has annexer which is dedicated to the safety manual requirements. So what all things the safety manual should include? The description of the supported safety function and their interfaces, special instruction or constraints for configuring the product for safety application and controls for configuration management. So, uh, so these points need some discussion. So, what actually this line means? This line means that even if your product is certified for by IEC 61508 for safety application, you cannot readily use that product in the safety application. There are some configuration that needs to be done in that product. So if you do not do that configuration or do not follow the special instruction mandated by the manufacturer, your equipment may or may not be providing you the requirement of the safety system. For example, you can take that your transmitter needs to be write protected, right, as a part of your safety requirement or SRS requirement. But the transmitter may or may not come directly with the right protection from the factory. There is dip switch that needs to be enabled or disabled for this right protection. So if you do not do the right protection, the safety action gets void. right? So this is just a one example that some special instruction or configuration needs to be followed. In other cases, there are transmitter which drives to low or high depending on the fault condition. Now, your safety system may have a requirement of output going high. Other safety system may have a requirement of output going low in condition in case of the fault condition. So you need to configure that. So only if you configure that thing, then your safety action will be in place. Otherwise, the safety action will be void, right? So this is the meaning of the second line. So you need not only you need to buy or procure a safety uh, safety equipment, but also you need to configure it and follow the special instruction to make the features of that particular equipment really available. Next, identification of supported product version. So you need to also check that whether that particular product version that you have bought is really supported or not. Fourth, random hardware failure modes and failure rates, both detected and undetected. This should be a part of your safety manual, and this is really required to do the seal verification and related exercise. So if you are not aware what is detected failure and what is undetected failure, there are other videos in the code, so you need to look on to that. Next point is worst case fault response time and diagnostic test interval, including the behavior of detected faults. This is also very important point, and this is also required in self verification and validation. Then proof test guidance. So those who are already aware of how the seal calculation are done, they know that while doing the seal calculation, we need to mention that what is the proof test coverage. And this proof test coverage you will find from in the safety manual. So there are cases where the manufacturer provide the different level of proof test coverage depending on the action that has been performed on that particular instrument. So suppose you have done a for a control valve, you have done only full strokes test, but you have not done full functional test. So the full stroke test will categorically fall under suppose 70% of proof test coverage, but full functional test will cover may fall under 90% of proof test coverage. So normally safety manual designates the list of activities that are to be performed to qualify for certain proof test coverage, and we need to follow that. Hardware fault tolerance and whether a product is type A and type B, that is also provided. Systematic capability instruction constraints related to the application of the product to avoid such systematic failure are also being covered. So there are lots of terms that has been described here, which is mostly related to the functional safety domain. So if you are unaware of any of this term, just follow our channel, and in that all these are discussed in some point or other. In the last slide, we discussed about all the hardware requirements of a equipment or a safety equipment. Now, in this particular slide, we will be discussing about the softwares. So, as you know, most of the equipments now comes with a software, and that software portion is also equally responsible for the safety action taken by the equipment. So we should also take a close look on the software part and how it really behaves. So the first point that it needs to be included in the safety manual, if is there any minimum competence that is required for integrating the software elements of the SIS, or there is any constraint uh, that is there to integrate that particular system with the other system. So for example, you consider that you have a pressure transmitter, and that pressure transmitter has to be connected to a DCS system or a PLC system, and the software of that particular PT should be compatible with the PLC version or the PLC software. There should not be any constraint in this part, and if there is any constraint, that should be highlighted in the safety manual. Also, installation, upgrade constraint, and release notes should be mentioned, right? And also the security protection measures to implement against known threats and vulnerabilities should be mentioned in the software elements, right? So here we vulnerabilities and threats, we mean the cyber security. From the cyber security point of view, the instrument should not be vulnerable, or if there is some threats or vulnerability that is known to manufacturer, that should be mentioned there, so that everybody can take a close look on that. Okay, now we will be providing a example, and that is for Rosemount 3051S series transmitter, and we will show what the safety manual of this particular instrument contains, and whether this information really ties on to what we have said till now. So for that, we will have another video, and that will be uploaded tomorrow.